kestää aika pitkään, niin kuin se herää.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to EIT Labs Helsinki Lunch Talk once again. Nice to see you, all of you here. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Mikko Virkkilä. He's a graduate from Aalto University and one of the founders of one of our CLC startups, Nimble Devices. So very nice always to have our CLC startups here to present their technology and their business. And today Mikko will be talking about SteerPath, an indoor positioning and navigation framework or system that they've developed and actually implemented here in Open Innovation House. And so this is an opportunity for all of our students. Great to have some of you here, and of course all the startups working in this space to take benefit of this technology. So let's welcome Mikko, and for those viewers who are watching this from through the streaming, if you have questions, please send them through Twitter at using the hashtag EIT Helsinki. Thanks, Mikko. The floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, so as Kai already mentioned, I'm from Nimble Devices. We're a small startup. We were 3 founders. Nowadays we're 5 people. We were founded in 2013, and our background is in Bluetooth technology. So if some of you might know a company called Blue Giga, that's where we met, and we've been working with Bluetooth in combination for 17 plus years, if you count all 3 of us. So that's quite a strong background. 2 of us have actually graduated from Aalto University. Tuomas, the other one, did his master thesis on indoor positioning, and that sort of laid the foundation of what we do today. What we do today is business-to-business solutions. So we are a technology provider hoping to get other technology houses to use us and work with us. All right, so what's the thing we're solving? Currently, people live indoors. Everybody is spending up to 90% of our time indoors rather than outdoors. We use our mobile phones constantly. Everybody's checking their Twitter accounts and whatnot. And yet, for our normal daily tasks, the mobile phone doesn't actually help us that much. You go to a supermarket, and this happened to me. I went to Prisma after my son was born, and for the first time I had to find baby bottles for the crying baby at home because he wasn't eating properly and whatnot. And I was silly. I looked at the map and saw the kids section and thought that was where they would have this. But no, that's where they have kids' clothes. So really, having to first find a map somewhere in the store and then going to the wrong place sucks. And finding something in that type of a maze is ridiculous today. I mean, it's easier to find something when in a strange, like with your car in a strange city, than in the supermarket. The shopping centers are same, but to a different degree. There, the problem is usually, where the hell did my friends go all of a sudden? And then you end up calling, and they say some random shop, and you're like, I don't know where that is. Which floor are you on? And the other person doesn't know that. So the indoors is a huge environment. Always getting lost doesn't cost, but when you're looking for that transfer flight in an airport, you not finding your flight does not cost only you a lot of money, but it also costs the airport and the airline a lot of money. And there are so many other examples of where the current mobile solutions provide absolutely no help with accomplishing our daily tasks. And some have tried adding signs, but that just means that people don't look at what the signs are in the store. And in some cases, like for foreigners at a museum, the sign doesn't mean anything because it's not in their language. And then we've been working with the Blind Association, where signs that provide usually little or no help because the person cannot read it. So what's the solution then to all of this? The solution is that if we have tools that know where we are, we can provide relevant information that is relevant to me, not relevant to somebody else, relevant to me about where I am now and where I need to go. Guiding you not just to the parking lot, but guiding you to the very rack where the item is that you need. And providing context-aware experiences rather than providing just generic, hey, 5% off for everybody. So this is why these problems, and is why it's estimated that the indoor positioning market is going to be worth 4 billion euros by 2019. And of course, we are providing a solution for that, which we call SteerPath. So it's a Bluetooth beacon-based indoor positioning system that you can use with iOS and Android. We provide it to app developers. So we cannot create these solutions, fix these problems ourselves, but we provide and work with you to get these problems fixed, to bring value and bring better experiences indoors. So why should you choose SteerPath? It's not something that's only written on paper. It's not something that might work eventually. It's something that is out there, has been used. When Slush 2014 opened its doors, 15,000 people streamed in, and we had no chance of making any fixes. And it worked on the first day. The MTA in New York City, the subway in New York City is not the friendliest of places, not from the point of view of what people trying to pinch beacons, but also it's clammed, there's lots of people around and so forth, so it's a very difficult environment to do accurate indoor positioning, yet our stuff works there. And another reason to choose us is to get it done. So we provide not just sort of bits of a tool. We provide examples, fully working drag and drop frameworks to be a part of your app. And it's all documented. Like, it's unbelievable what you can get on, what you have to do today to get properly documented solutions. And this, our customers are realizing it as well. So one customer came to us and said it took him 20 minutes to get our stuff included in his app and the position showing up. Now that's a nice reference. Another thing is that we have 100% of our customers are still working with us, usually on the second project or third project right now. That means 100% customer satisfaction. So how does our system work? We manage the data visually, so you have a floor plan where you mark all this information. You mark walls, zones, routes, and so forth, rather than, for example, having long lists of coordinates in code. Then the Bluetooth beacons, you place enough of them to get a coverage for that area. Usually in larger venues, 1 per 100 square meters is enough. In Slush, we had 1 per like 150 square meters because it was huge. If you want more accuracy, you notice that somewhere this is not accurate enough right here where there's lots of people or so forth. You add 1 beacon there, and it's more accurate. So the accuracy, which is asked a lot, is flexible. It varies a bit depending on how far you're away from the beacon and so forth. Typically, it's between 1 and 5 meters. If it's not accurate enough, you can add another beacon. Here, we've done it so that it's accurate to about 2 meters. So the beacons, such as this one over here in the ceiling, they're about this size. They're battery powered. They work for 2 years. They're small, easy to install. You take off the sticker and put it up. rather than running wires or having Ethernet connectors or whatever, you can do it like you can do a building this size in a day. And without sort of running wires, meaning you don't have to have professional electricians to do it either. So the libraries are quite generic, meaning powerful. Everything is done in GPS coordinates. So when you transition from a system that already uses GPS coordinates outdoors, coming indoors doesn't actually need to change that much. Because we still give the latitude, the longitude, and altitude. We also provide some tools for you to go from those to screen coordinates and whatnot. You can have geofences, meaning that when you enter a room or an area, something can happen. When you exit, something else can happen. These can go within each other, so something can happen. Let's take a museum example. You walk into the area where there are paintings from the Civil War. It tells you you've entered an area where there's paintings from the Civil War. Then you walk up to a single painting, and it tells, again, more about that one. So these trigger zones are quite powerful. And because it's all managed on a map rather than coordinates, it's also easy to update. So then another thing is this route calculations for finding products and so forth. All you need to do is give our system like where do you want to go, and looks where you are and finds the shortest route to that point. And everything we do also works offline. So when the internet at Slush, for example, was spotty, shall we say, that means that a lot of different solutions would not work. But because this one works offline, even if the power would have gone out, the battery-powered beacons and your cell phone, the indoor positioning would still keep working. All right, so that was sort of the background information. We want to do amazing apps together with you. And for that purpose, you have completely free access to the SDKs for Android and iOS to build with our tools. This, like Kai said, this building, the first, second, and fourth floor where the app campus is has these beacons. The maps are there, the materials, the SDK documentations, everything is there for you to experiment with, play with, and so forth. Now, I assume that you have some questions, so now would be a good time to ask.
Maybe just to start with the deployment.
Yes.
Or actually, let's start with the business model. You were saying that you have these SDKs available for the application developers. What you are selling? Are you selling these BLE tags or? No.
So we don't sell the hardware unless you want to buy it from us. There are many companies that sell hardware. We can provide you the connection to where to get them from. What we provide is the tools to make something useful from that bag of hardware that you get from hardware manufacturers. So while we give the SDK here for free, our normal business is to give a license to use our SDK, and that license fee goes per building. So that's one thing that differentiates us from a few other companies is we don't charge per user, we charge per building. So when you have, let's say, for example, a supermarket chain, when they're deploying this to all of their supermarkets, we charge per supermarket.
Okay, so SDKs are per venues or buildings.
The license is per. Yes, the license is per venue.
Do you have then this kind of, let's say pre-deployment tools that you are planning where to put all those tags?
So we've got documentation about that. What we're doing with Finnish customers is also is that we have a package that we sell that for Finnish customers we can come to your venue and set up a demo for you, have a little bit of training and schooling, and then that stays for them to develop on top of.
Okay, maybe there are other questions as well, but if I still want.
No, sure.
Okay, so if you are taking the normal, let's say, city market type of environment, and you are calculating all the deployment steps, starting from the office design, you have the floor plan, and then you are designing where are the tags, etc. And then you are visiting the place, you are installing everything what is needed, and maybe doing some measurements. So what is your estimate? How many hours or working days will be needed for city market like we have in Finland?
4
what?
days. Sorry,
4 days.
4 days
Per-
per shop.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question of how this technology works exactly. So does it work like the phone will get the signal from multiple Bluetooth beacons and then it will figure out its location, or where is the processing now?
Yes. So technically you mark the beacons. Each beacon transmits a unique ID. You mark where those beacons are placed and what ID they mark on this map. So in case you want to move a beacon later on, you can move it on the map and so forth. Then from that we do a bunch of, we take that data and prepare what we call a positioning file. And that is what the phone then uses as its data source. This is what allows us to work offline because it's not on a server. It can download it, but anyways. So the phone does the calculation. The phone sees multiple beacons, as you say, and then based on the data it has of where those beacons should be, it figures out where itself is.
Okay, I guess 2 years is a long time for the batteries to kind of last, but it's not eternity.
No.
But how about 10 years? Is that?
Yes, so actually, whilst these ones are lasting 2 years, there are other beacon manufacturers that manufacture longer lasting beacons with bigger batteries. And the main thing is that you can also, there's ones that work off of USB power. So you could just run a wire if you want it to work for eternity, and then you have no maintenance in changing them or anything like this. Right now the battery powered, because the technology is new and people aren't exactly sure where things will go, people are opting for sort of an easy installation, and after 2 years when technology is advanced they'll switch either to powered ones or maybe they can already buy a similar size that lasts 10 years. The first ones on the market, they lasted like 3 to 6 months. Now there's ones that they at least claim that they last about 5 years, but they're bigger. So we'll see where the technology is in 2 years, but with so much happening in the beacon world, the hardware is going forward quickly.
And how much does it cost approximately?
It costs about 20 euros a piece in small quantities. So, for example, for a building with a large building where you would need 1 per 100 square meters, let's say you have a 10,000 square meter building, the hardware investment is actually not a huge amount of money. Yes?
How many beacons were used in /main?
150.
You mentioned something that you have been playing with Bluetooth for years already, I guess.
Yes.
Can you tell something of the story of Nimble Devices? What is the history, so to speak?
Sure.
What kind of changes you have gone through with your business model and so?
Oh,
Something.
yeah, that's a long story. So, while studying here, I met Tuomas, and he was working at Blue Giga at that time. He worked there for 7.5 years in total. And I went to work there as well. I did my thesis there. Blue Giga does Bluetooth modules for embedded systems. My background is in embedded hardware, embedded software engineering, mostly. So I was there first doing internal projects, then doing also project management. So, and then I moved to doing Wi-Fi stuff as well. Then during that time we were doing all kinds of small hobby projects. We did a system which would indicate on the bathroom door that there was somebody on the toilet, so that you wouldn't have to go in and look. So it had a sensor to detect that and wireless transmitting it over Bluetooth to the door, and there was a little red sign that was lighting up when somebody. So we were doing all kinds of hobby projects. One of them got a bit more bigger, so we did a weather station based on Bluetooth Low Energy, and it's still available. You can check it out. I mean, it's available. This is what we did is available, not the actual product, but we did quite a bit on it. It ended up being like a half-year project for the first prototype. At that point, we'd also had to file like 10 different invention reports to our company, and things sort of slowed down before we could actually release. I ended up leaving BlueGig at that time, and even though we had a company called Nimble Devices actually set up in the UK at that point, we decided that we aren't passionate about weather sensors. And this is like, what is the problem that this is actually solving and so forth. We were starting to question ourselves a bit. So we actually ended up abandoning that project. Then we kept all in contact, and how we came to be interested in indoor positioning, well, this personal story of getting frustrated in a shop had a bit to do with it, but the main thing is that we got approached by this museum project, and they asked, could we help them improve the experience for blind people? And we were like, yeah, we could. And then we started thinking that, well, the last time we were doing stuff for fun and so forth, and it ended up costing quite a lot of effort, we should maybe do this one more properly. And once we had a customer, we decided to start a company and get a non-paying customer. I mean, they had a small grant to do their stuff, and we were helping them out of goodwill, knowing them. But anyway, so we were thinking, how do we do this museum map and so forth, but we found other people who do museum maps, and we were able to focus on what we know best, which is Bluetooth. Of course, one of the main reasons we felt that, yes, we can do this is that Tuomas worked on indoor positioning for his master thesis for way too many years. You know how thesis projects can sort of expand a bit, so that's what happened with his. I don't remember how many years he did in the end, but it was years. And my background being a coder, he was able to explain to me in sort of simple enough terms how to actually implement what he described. So that's how sort of things started rolling. And as things moved forward, it was clear that even though there's competition and there's companies that do things, they're really awful. I mean, this is me pitching, but it's also like, go on their forums and look what people are actually saying about those products. And then what is actually possible versus what is purely on their marketing slides. So this was sort of also that not only can we do what they asked, we can actually do it better. And that's where we are today. We're doing it better.
So how old is your kid?
He's 1 year.
1 year. So
yes.
This is fairly recent.
1.5 years the company has existed. So yeah. I quit my job when he was born, basically, after this frustrating thing. Very responsible thing to do for a new father.
Okay, maybe still to continue about this model operational.
Sure.
Model. So is it so that, like you mentioned, that the Bluetooth tags will be taken care of by the third parties, so those who are delivering those things. But from the installation point of view, are you taking care of that as well, or?
So when you do the original map for where you want to place them, we've got instructions like place them approximately like this and so forth. It's not that, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out approximately 1 per 100 square meters. You just plug it in there, and it sort of, our system takes care of the rest, and it doesn't have to be centimeter accuracy that it's exactly here. As long as it, on average, you get it right, then it works. But what we provide is also once you've done the plan, you can print out a picture of like a guide to do the installation, i.e. this ID here, this ID here, this ID here. Hand that over to your installation crew, and they'll go and install it.
But the installation crew is not coming from you?
Well, we can organize it if you pay us, yes.
Okay. But now about this payment.
Sure.
So let's take an example. You mentioned this 100 square meters type of installation. Okay, so if we assume, let's take a same example like City Market, which is
10. They're about 20,000 square meters.
Okay, so roughly how many? Let's assume 100 or 200 tags, or how many?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so
200, 250 maybe, to make sure that you've got also sort of the because you want better accuracy near where people enter or where people stop, and it doesn't really matter the accuracy when you're between the aisles, so you might want to place a few extra, all described. So you want to place beacons where people are likely to use your app. and those are
And with those 150, is the price roughly still the same, 20 euros per?
yeah,
So it means 3 kilo euros.
yes,
And then for 4 days, like
Yes.
you mentioned. Okay, and then license fee.
yes,
So basically that is the
yeah,
package.
and the license fee is more than that,
How much more?
about twice.
About twice of which you are now?
So let's say for the city market, let's take that example. Now this is not an offer. I'm not.
Well, I was just,
You're writing
you
down.
are almost closing the deals.
But
That's the question.
This would be the first time
But-
that we have a deal made during the lunch.
so let's say you're developing an app for iOS and Android.
Yes.
That app is going to cost you a bare minimum of 30,000 euros to develop in Finland. That's a fact. Out of that, our portion is about 8,000 euros.
8,000.
Yeah, and with that you get the routing, you get the positioning, you get the map widget, you get a lot of stuff. So now if you look at what you get for, like, why build or make or buy, that's the question, right? Should I make this myself? And you look at what you can actually accomplish with 8,000 euros, that's roughly 2 weeks of development time. Trust me, you won't do this in 2 weeks.
And this fee is now, let's say, okay, maybe it's a little bit too detailed question, but this is unlimited amount of devices.
It's an unlimited amount of devices. There are pricing tiers that go roughly with the size and number of things you do in the app. Every pricing tier has all features. Basically, it scales with, if you have an airport, we're going to charge you more. That's the sort of the point.
Okay, but this is not let's say, connected to the venue amount.
If you have lots of venues, we can come down. We can renegotiate for a bulk deal.
Okay.
But so the pricing is not dependent on the number of users or the number of devices. So whether you have 10,000 users a month or 100,000 users or whatever, it doesn't affect the price. So you know in advance how expensive this will be exactly.
Okay, but it only let's say variable parameter is this venue amount,
Venue size and venue amount.
venue size and amount. Okay. Thank you.
So, have you offered your product for hospitals? Because I think that's a very natural place because those things are very clean and they are using very aggressive cleaners. So, all the markers and those kind of things, they are not the solutions for that. So, I think that if it works even in offline, it could be very useful for those places.
Yeah, so when, for example, right now when patients come into a hospital, they might end up in the wrong waiting room or private medical centers. This causes the doctor to have to walk around looking for the patient because he knows that the patient has checked in but is not outside his door as should be. So that's wasted time, direct cost, as well as bad experience for the patient. And private sector, there is competition in this. So I agree with you. It's a very natural place for better guidance and such. There's also vision impairment. You don't want to use stairs. You want to use elevators versus you can use stairs. Then it might be shorter route for you and so forth. There are many reasons why this should be used in hospitals. Now, whether or not we're discussing or we've discussed in the past, I can say that we've discussed in the past, but at that point they weren't willing. I mean, they were interested in understanding what they can do, but they decided not to move forward with it at that point. It was a single, we've only talked with one.
I guess
I think he was next.
So one question from the sort of consumer
Sure.
perspective, if this kind of system is installed in the Prismas and hospitals and
Mhm.
whatever places, so basically I would need all those apps in my phone.
So do you have?
Each venue basically, or how do you see that? Because if I go to some new doctor's appointment I have not been before, so then I don't know where to go, but I definitely don't have the app either.
So,
How do you see that kind of working?
so do you have any S Group app on your phone?
Which app?
Any of the S Group's app on your phone?
Well, I
S
don't
Bank
personally,
or okay. Well, anyways, we already have a lot of these companies already have an app,
yeah.
one or more. Then when you enter one of these places on iOS, it can show us, it can alert you if you want, or show a small icon. This is the proper way of doing it on iOS. That this venue supports venue specifics. This app supports this venue's things, and then you just open that app. Yes, you do need to have the app installed. Right now, that there is just no way around it. There cannot be a website, for example. But then the user experience generally with apps is much better, and you can do things like local notifications or push notifications and so forth.
Google will sort of fingerprint all those premises, and then with their maps I can navigate everywhere.
I really doubt Google Maps will know which doctor's room you're going to. I mean, they might, but they might not do an app for that. So whilst Google might provide generic GPS location, and it might get good enough to give you a rough idea, they are not the ones to actually then provide branded indoor maps. They don't, I mean, even with Google Maps today, there's no way to check what's on the right side of me right now. I mean, they do show map widget, but really doing any kind of useful functionality on top of Google Maps means that you also have your own data. And then it's the question of which is easier, starting to collect and manage your own data, visualizing it, doing the routes, searches, and so forth on your own or with us. So, I mean, how to get your location right now, we're really good at that. But that's not the only thing we provide. So we don't see it. It is a threat, sort of, but there's still so many other problems to solve with getting good user experience.
Okay.
I think.
So, okay. So anyway, so you mentioned this, I guess this Manhattan, the Metropolitan Transport Authority or something like that.
Yes.
Grand Central Station. You have other references like that?
No.
You have that?
Yes.
Okay. So how global are you now? Do you have business outside Finland?
Yes. For example, in New York City.
But
Yeah, we've got plenty of sort of in-process customers that are under NDA. But yeah, right now I would say about 50% of the emails I send are within Finland and 50% are abroad.
A little bit about the same question, that if you have to now say, if you now have to say that which are the most promising verticals, like someone was asking this hospital, so which 2 or 3 verticals would you estimate that will be the most promising for your business?
There are the volume-wise as well as the size-wise, we have the most leads within retail segment. So retail at this moment looks like the most promising. As far as then product readiness, we've got a customer who has a museum product. So reselling that into a wider audience outside of Finland might generate revenue to us quicker, but the potential seems to be more on the retail side of things.
In Finland, this retail as well.
I mean, sorry?
Overall, this retail or?
Yes, overall, yes. So, yes, Finland is interesting, but actually within retail, S and K are so big that they're even interesting. But in Finland, doing stuff in Finland usually pales comparison to what doing. So, for example, going into a huge shopping center in Finland versus doing a large one abroad. The large one abroad is much bigger than the huge one in Finland.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, so I had this idea that in the future you make your own app that would be compatible with all the locations.
Yes.
And then you could download from online this
Yes.
specific data. Because in the long run, it doesn't like really make sense that every user downloads 200 apps to their phone.
That's in the long run, that might be the case. However, paying customers are paying because they want their brand to be visible. They want their users to be happier. So as a startup who is looking for customers, focusing on not on the sort of the, hey, everybody's free to use maps, but rather on improving these certain customer segments where the owner of that customer segment actually has money, is we're seeing as more profitable. So with this, because every map comes to us. So we are slowly building up sort of a map database of indoor maps, venue maps, where all the beacons are marked and so forth. So it isn't technically a very large step then to do that. If you want to keep it private, you pay extra. And then trying to build on top of that to get, so people would publish their maps through our service and they'd be free to use. Technically, it's not a problem, but business model-wise, it's not something we're looking at the moment. I think Matti has been...
Yeah, so one thing I'm interested is that how well the customers understand the possibilities of these technologies, or are they aiming like, I have this one thing that I want to implement?
There are customers that are willing to sort of sit down, listen, and so forth, and there are customers who are like, I just want this. And usually I just want this means that they just want to spam and market. So they're not looking, this segment of customer understands one thing very well. It's that they will get paid by the number of people who see their advertisement or see the advertisement in their app. And that's the only thing they focus on. But this is not the norm. So a lot of people have understood that such an app won't get users and it will get deleted. If it doesn't actually help you in your daily task, it doesn't have longevity. So we're not really talking to people who just aren't willing to sort of help the users. And when it comes to helping the users, those people are usually also more open to what is the best way. And we've got a bunch of different usage scenarios, everything from, let's say you're in Gigantti or some electronics superstore. Now, you've decided you want to buy a TV. Why is it that it's quicker for you to go online and buy that TV on your phone rather than you have to queue there as a sheep and wait for the attendant eventually to be free and so forth? So our suggestion is that yes, you could do this, buy the same TV because we know where you are, which Gigantti and so forth, sure. But also this help me button in the Gigantti app where you press that and you can still keep browsing around. And eventually when there is a free clerk, that person can see on their screen that you're next and you are over there now and come to you and ask, so I understand you wanted some help. So how can I help you? So bringing service back, even with today's realities of labor costs being high, that doesn't mean that there can't be service, an efficient service.
And if I can continue on that one, has
Sure.
any of your customers run a hackathon or something to engage wider developer ecosystem with this?
Yeah, so that's what the MTA does. So they don't have, they do have some app as well, but their whole idea is that they organize an app quest sponsored by AT&T where they're looking for people to use their data, their infrastructure to create and improve a commuter's sort of experience. And that's where we are. So we're part of that app quest this year, where we've provided the indoor positioning infrastructure and SDKs for these app developers to freely use and experiment with. This is with the theme of accessibility, so improving use for people who are disabled, blind, or can't use the stairs or whatever within the New York City subway. Yes?
So this Bluetooth Low Energy seems to be getting kind of popular for the indoor positioning, so I see a lot of startups doing something like that. But do you have an opinion of any sort of competing indoor positioning technologies that
if you want to do wire, like a phone only has a handful of different RF technologies. There's like the cellular network, not possible to do accurate positioning with it. There's Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are very similar in many respects. From our point of view, we'd gladly use Wi-Fi, but what Apple did was that they took away the APIs to use Wi-Fi for this sort of a purpose. So that leaves Bluetooth. And that's why Bluetooth is the most popular, because it's supported by Android and iOS. Meaning if you want to do something cross-platform, you probably are going to be looking at Bluetooth. Yes?
Can you locate a moving beacon?
So the phone can know that it's... So there are, in our system, we've got two sorts of beacons. We've mainly been speaking about the positioning beacons. So they're fixed installations, and they're used to get your location. But in addition, there can be some like movable beacons which are not used for positioning, but rather just the information that you are near it. So for example, you could attach one to Kai, and every time he passes by your desk, you'd get a notification to switch to doing something useful. So then he becomes a movable zone. It's, in our terms, it doesn't matter, like we have geofence zones when you enter a room, but there's also movable zones. So would there be a zone called Kai?
Let's do that. Any other questions for Mikko?
Would you say the accuracy with Wi-Fi is as good as with Bluetooth?
We haven't tested our system that much with Wi-Fi. There are some reasons to expect it to be worse, simply because the differences between, I mean, unless you replace all the Wi-Fi hotspots in the building to all be the same, and yours, there's going to be more differences between the devices. Another reason not to use Wi-Fi is that you're tying together two independent features or functions. So when your IT department decides to reroute your Wi-Fi for better performance, you don't want your indoor positioning to like go away and things like this. So keeping those two separate will actually give you autonomy as far as infrastructure goes. So you manage the indoor positioning infrastructure separately from your sort of IT infrastructure.
Also, you don't get the Wi-Fi APs with $20 that run 5 years on a battery, so
yeah, that's another reason.
More difficult to install.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, so any last questions? Mikko? I have a question for you guys. So who's going to hack on this? Okay, some maybes, and I trust that Hessu will bring this to all of the courses at Aalto.
Yeah, I have a proposal for you.
Okay, good.
So
Great.
there's business cards lying around if you can't remember who I am or what the company is called or so forth, or what that address is. That's not publicly available because it has Aalto specific stuff. So just contact me and ask for it or ask for the presentation.
Okay, let's give a big hand to Mikko. And thank you. And actually, the next lunch talk will be in 2 weeks' time. We will have another CLC startup, Innovamo, giving a presentation. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.